Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode today. Today I'm not actually fishing, I just want to talk to you about how I'm going to set up for my snapper season, both early season, during the season, and as we get later into our May-April season. First of all, this year again, I'm going to be running the Reedys Rigs tackle. It's the best top quality tackle I've ever used. It increases your catch rate so much because you don't have to worry about your hooks breaking on you or anything falling apart. That hook just gets straight in the fish's mouth and the rest is history. So I'm just going to start showing what rods I like to use. So the rods that I kind of tend to use for my snapper, I don't believe in going overboard with your price because I think it's just overkill. Like people get their Saragosas and their Therese rods which cost them like $600 for a combo or thereabouts. I just like to spend, a couple $100, sometimes even less. So this is one of my favourite combos that I use. I generally use it for my ultra rigs or a paternoster style because it's a carbon rod, so they're a bit stronger and they last really well with a big sinker going up and down. So it's just a Shimano Sonic Pro 7.3 snapper with a Sedona 5000 with 30-pound braid on it. The other combo that I like to use is more of a cheaper model. That last one's probably about a $200 setup, maybe a little bit more, where this one's about a $150 setup and it works like gold. I've got some really good snapper on this rod over my time. It's just a Silkstar power tip with a Sedona 4000 reel with 15-pound fluorocarbon with monofilament line. So one thing that I'm going to show you, the best thing about having one of these things on your boat, it's just so easy to rig up. So they come pretty much pre-tied already. So all you got to do is just grab the end of your line, Reedys Ultra Rig packet. This is personally my favourite colour, the scallop. It just works like gold. Don't know why, but I just try and use it as much as I can. But all the colours work. I've caught plenty of snapper on all colours. It's just a personal preference. So all you really do is just untangle the little loop that it comes in. You just sort of fiddle your way around a bit. Sometimes they can be a pain, sometimes they can be really quick and easy. Your rig pretty much, there's your swivel that goes to your main line and it runs down and you got your paternoster style rig. The best thing about these new Reedys rigs, with the fly, they're UV, so they really light up and attract the fish. They've got a bit of UV tinsel in them, as you can see, shining, as well as the black. And these hooks, they are so thick, it's great. The tips are all even, so they're not going to snap off on you. They're top quality, which is going to last a long time if you take proper care of them. So the easy way I tie them on, you pretty much just run your line straight through the eyelet, pull it back. I just use a uni knot. It's quick and simple. I'm going to post a video later on of how to tie them. So you got that, pull it nice and tight. And there's your uni knot. And I just like to cut off my excess braid just because I don't want any fish swimming past that and feeling it, because that'll scare them away. And then with the bottom, there's a couple different ways you can tie off to your sinker. So some people generally with your sinker, they just tie it straight to it with the blood knot, uni knot, whatever you use. But I like to make a loop knot, so that way it's quick and easy to change your sinker size depending whereabouts you're fishing and what conditions you're fishing. So all you do is you just pull the line back up over itself, make a little loop and wrap the leader through it about 2 or 3 times, and you pull that tight, which will give you a loop knot just like that. And then it's so simple and easy to put on your sinker because all you do, you pinch the end together and that just slides straight through the eyelet of your sinker. You pull it back over it, pull it tight, and bang, you're ready to go fishing. You've got your rod straight to your leader, your rig's done, and that goes over the side and you'll have a fish in no time. So generally, depending how many rods I have out, I'll either run 1 or 2 of these rigs, and the best baits that I find to use for them is just a simple silver whiting head, just straight through on the circle hook, or just a squid ring. The way you want to rig these up, you just want to pin it through once, and you don't want too much bait hanging over your hook. You only want about that much. If you were to show with your finger, I'll attach a photo of how I've done it with salmon when chasing gummies. That way, because it's a circle hook, you want your bait to be able to roll up and down on the hook, and that way it won't get caught over your hook, so when a fish takes it, that you'll miss your hook up. And depending how many rods I have out, the rest of my rigs I'll just run a straightforward twin snarl rig, which is just a uni knot to the bottom hook, come up about 100 mil to your second hook, which is then just a snell knot straight to a glow bead and a size 1 or 2 sinker. That's all I use for Port Phillip Bay. So if I have 6 rods out, I'll use probably 5 of these and 1 ultra rig, and if I have 8 rods out, I'll usually use 2 ultra rigs and 6 of these. About what I was talking about earlier in regards to taking care of your rigs and your hooks, this rig here is probably about a year old. I've probably used it 10-15 times, but as you can see, it still looks brand new. That's because after each trip I wash them in fresh water, just with the tap on lightly. So we'll go to the tap now and I'll show you how I do it. So I'm at my tap now. I'll just turn that on ever so lightly, and I just sort of get my UV fly and I just run it under, and I'm just using my fingers. I always go above the barb as well, just around there, so there's no bait that's going to go hard in there and stop the barb from doing its job. So once that's done, I'll just give them a squeeze to dry out all the water and just reshape it nicely like that, so it's a brand new fly for next time you go out. And if you do that after every trip, there's no reason why a rig won't last you 15-20 trips before you even think about changing it. So I'm just going to talk about how if I'm fishing by myself, I'll set up my spread. So obviously in Victoria you're only allowed 4 rods per person, so for this I'm just going to use me 4 rods. So let's just say I've sounded up a nice school of snapper. First thing I'll do is knock the engine back into neutral. I'll leave it running. I'll go up the front, put my anchor out, and I always come back a little bit on the motor to let some more anchor out, so that way you're not sitting on top of your anchor and swinging around. It's got a nice firm hold point. Now generally the first thing that I'll do is I'll start throwing some burley out. As I'm doing that in the process, I'll have a bucket open and just throw out a handful of pellets. I'll cut up some squid rings and I'll pop my ultra rig straight down in that holder there. So it's straight down, and while it's doing that, I'll start baiting up my snarl rigs, usually a full pilchard, a squid head or a silver whiting. With these I tend to cast them out, so usually the depth that I'm fishing is 15 to 20 metres. So you want to just cast that out 15-20 metres or so, and you just sit her in there, and usually once it hits the water I give a lift to the rod just to let some more line out. It's just what I like to do. I'll flip the bail arm over. Same with these ones. There's your other snail, straight out the back, hits the water, flick some line out, bail arm back over in the rod holder, and same with our last one, straight out in the holder. So there's my spread. I'll have those 2 out wide, that one straight down the guts, and an ultra rig straight up and down. So there's a very short amount of, very small chance that you're going to get many tangles. If I do have a mate come out, usually I'll fish me 6 to 8 rods depending on current and tide for where I'm fishing. And if I do that, usually my 2 closest rods together, I have ultra rigs just so they're straight down, and then the rest of these 4 other holders, rod holders, I have my snell rigs straight out. It's just what I like to do, so I have the process of, right, they're my ultra rigs and the rest are me snelled. And if the current's pulling really hard, I can bring my ultra rigs right back to the other holders here, so they're right out of the way, so then you just have, every second rod holder's got a snell rig, so they're really far apart. One tip that I can give though, that I always tend to do when I'm going out snapper fishing or any type of fishing, always have a backup plan so you don't come in empty handed, because you spend all that money to get your boat all prepared to go out fishing with your baits, your fuel, etc. I always tend to carry a squid rod on my boat, because not many times you go out squid fishing and don't catch a feed. So if I've gone out early morning for my snapper, I've sat there for 5-6 hours and haven't caught anything, I've always got that backup plan to go chase some squid to bring home a feed for the friends and family. Now I just want to talk about spots that I like to fish. I'm going to put up some photos in the video here, but generally from this time of year, once we're out of lockdown till about halfway through November, I'll do what I call trying to catch the snapper in transit. Now the snapper obviously coming in schools through the bay, and when you look at the heads, there's channels that they swim through. One usually aims to about your St Leonard's area, one goes right up to the city, one goes to your Frankston, Carrum area, and one sort of sits around your Mount Martha, Mornington area. So I sort of line up the channel to the land, and you just sort of sit along that straight line, and you just don't even need a sounder. All you do is you hit there. I don't even use my sounder. I just go to the spot, burley up, and just sit and wait for the snapper to come. Fishing like that's a waiting game. You can sit there for 6-7 hours before a school of fish comes, and you'll get your 3 or 4 snapper, or you might get one. It's sort of just sitting and waiting. You're hoping, really, but it's sort of how I like to tend to chase them. Another thing I like to do when it starts coming into your more prime season, obviously your sounding's a really big key when it comes to snapper fishing. So on the tinny I've got an Lowrance Elite TR2 7-inch. I thought I'd spend the extra money to get a really good sounder on the tinny, just to try and enhance my luck of catching a fish, being able to see what's around properly than having a cheaper sounder that won't have the features that has. After a massive windstorm or any storm, the fish will go in nice and shallow to where the warmer water is, generally clearer water too, where all the bait fish get pushed up into as well. So when I'm saying your shallow water, anywhere from 3 to 7 meters, try and find a little reef or like mixed ground, anchor up there over something and just cast your line out. When I'm doing that, I usually just use a 150 hook, just so you don't get snagged every time. But apart from that, when it gets to your prime season, from anywhere from November to sort of your January, you'll fish your deeper waters from your 14 to your 20, your 22 meter mark. And it's just sort of trying to find places where they could be, whether it's bommies, reefs, sunken boats. You might even just come up over a school, but it really does tend, you don't just go, oh, I caught fish here last year, they're definitely going to be there again. It doesn't work like that. Fish have fins, they're going to be swimming around. Yeah, you'll have your reefs where there'll always be a fish sitting on, but it tends to always stand around that area, because they might be 20 meters that way, 100 meters that way, you'll find a Christmas tree.